let's talk about initially what happened here. So here's the letter that VADA sent to Luis Ortiz team, and it says there's an adverse analytical finding for chlorothiazide and hydrochlorothiazide. Now, if you take a look at these pictures here of the Walgreens prescriptions that Ortiz was taking, the bottles say atenolol and losartan. So the names on the letter do not match the names on the bottle. Well, some are generic, some are trade, but under the category of diuretics on the WADA website, these particular drugs, the names on the bottles, do not appear. So even if you were trying to be compliant and you looked up on the list the medications that you were taking, you wouldn't find these. One of them I think you do find in a category under beta blockers, which is specific to a sport like archery, where you want to be nice and calm, which you're not really nice and calm in boxing. So anyway, there's an issue right there. Second, here's the actual test results where they found the positive for these two blood pressure meds. And these other parameters, meaning IRMS, which is known also widely as CIR, carbon isotope ratio testing, that's normal. All these other hormones, meaning androstenedione and diol and andro and DHEA and the TE ratio, and everything is perfectly normal. So there's no suspicion in terms of those particular testing parameters either. This is a very, very important thing to note right here. If you go to the WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency website, and you look for what they call specified substances, a specified substance is something just exactly like these blood pressure medicines. And let me read to you what it says as what a specified substance is. Quote, there is a greater likelihood that these substances could be susceptible to a credible non-doping explanation. What do you know? Okay, now, how does that tie in? In the last 2 years, for these two blood pressure medications that Luis Ortiz took, these are the sanctions that were given by USADA. There was a wheelchair racing athlete who got a public warning. There was a track athlete who got a 3-month suspension. Maybe some of these other testing parameters were suspicious, and that's why they gave the 3 months. There was a gymnast who got a ruling of no fault. There was a table tennis athlete who also got a ruling of no fault. So 3 out of the 4 sanctions for people using the same 2 blood pressure meds that Luis Ortiz used got 2 no faults and 1 public warning. So, as I've stated before, I think it would be crazy for them to, let's see, I think at some point that I tweeted this to the World Boxing Council. Ortiz not declaring simple blood pressure meds is more like a jaywalking offense than a murder, in brackets, meaning an anabolic steroid positive crime. The fight should take place. So this would be an absolute disaster for anti-doping in boxing, as well as for all boxing fans, to not have this fight take place based upon when they filled out the form, which I believe we have a case here, and I described it as comparative negligence, which means I believe there's a number of people involved in this process. And what we can learn from this is that the VADA form can be improved. When you enroll, it says, list all medications, dietary supplements, similar substances that you're currently taking, consume regularly, currently consume regularly. Some medications you take on an as-needed basis. Maybe you don't take them routinely. Blood pressure meds you would, though. Or have consumed within the past 14 days. Well, now you're thinking, what do I take within the last 14 days? And you're taking a medication that may be as needed. So this is not clear. I believe, how do you correct this? You add an additional step in the enrollment process, and you contact the athlete and their management, and you go over all the answers that they gave on the enrollment form, and you give them a second bite at the apple, or opportunity to remember things that they may have forgot when you jam them unexpectedly on the track or in the boxing gym. So I believe this can be improved. Secondly, the actual doping control officer form that Luis Ortiz signed here, there's a lot of issues I have with this. First of all, it's in 2 languages. So I would assume his primary language is Spanish. This form appears to be in English and French. And every question as you go down, if you look at it, and of course we've blown it up here. This is as big as it could possibly be. Look at that little line there. You can't even read it. I had to blow this up on my computer 100 times to figure out that first it says, you know, like list medications and, I don't know, maybe it says blood transfusions or something. And then it says the same thing in French. And then the next 3 or 4 words in English. And then the next 3 or 4 words repeated in French throughout this whole section. So they listed, first of all, Luis Ortiz did not fill out this form. His trainer, who I talked to earlier today, filled out this form. He's a bright, articulate guy. He was doing the best job that he could. He did not get any help from Jeff Smith here, who's the doping control officer. He asked him, does this look okay? Now, the guy didn't say, oh, well, I don't see any medications listed here. Is he by any chance taking any medications? Did he get any sort of education, you know, guidance, assistance with filling out this form? The answer is no. Now, Herman, the trainer, said that he was a very nice guy, but his job's not to help you fill out the form. So you get this form, it's in 2 languages, it's very small print, it's signed by his manager and filled out by his trainer, and they at some point handed this to Luis Ortiz, and he put his signature on it, and they left with his blood and urine. Now, initially, when they contacted him, they were training on the track. You've got equipment all over the track. You've got training partners. You're in the middle of training, right? Now you got to shut it all down, pack everything up, get in your car, go back to the boxing gym. You walk in, who knows how much chaos was going on at that time. They sit him down, they start drawing his blood and collecting his urine, and his trainer, who was on the track with him, fills out the form to the best of his ability, and his manager signs it, and they hand it to Luis, and he never even really had the opportunity to say, oh, what about those blood pressure meds that, you know, because when he showed it to the guy and says, is this okay? He goes, yeah, it looks good to me. Bam, and he's out the door. So do I have any indication from all this evidence that has been submitted that there was any intent to cheat? The answer is no. So is it the job of the WBC and VADA and the State Commission? Is it to somebody who commits an offense, like negligently or not completely filling out this questionnaire, which I have made an analogy to the equivalent of jaywalking, you know? Do you cancel the fight, which is like a murder sentence for a crime, which would be equivalent to a positive drug test for anabolic steroids? This is not. These are specified substances, remember, that they reduce because they're commonly found to be positive, where they end up with a public warning or no fault ruling at arbitration. Or is it to do what's in the best interest of the boxing fan and clean sport? Because unless you have strong evidence of intent to cheat, then you don't have a case. Let the fight go on. Don't deprive the fans. And WBC, I hope you're listening. Thank you.